Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, Juggernaut, issue number 5 of 5. Hate to say it, but this comic book, quite literally, this issue, the final issue in the series, kind of, has literally committed several of the worst possible sins on my list of what not to do in a comic book. Going to talk about all that good stuff, and I'm not going to string you guys along with it. I'm simply going to first give credit where credit's due, and boom. So Fabian N. is the writer, Ron Garney on art, Matt Mila doing the color art, VC's Joe Sabino on letters, Jeff Shaw and Matt Mila doing the cover art, and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created the Juggernaut and the original X-Men and most of the Marvel Universe for all the wonder that it's worth. This book, basically, several of the sins that a book can commit. One is not sticking the ending. That's always my biggest thing. If you've stuck around this channel for any length of time, you know that one of the ways that I judge a comic book, limited series especially, or even an arc or a one-shot, whatever, is you have to stick the ending. It has to give me something. It has to make me feel something. When you have words and you have art, you have story and pictures, you have this tale being spun. I mean, what's the use of telling a campfire story if at the end I'm not scared or I don't have a jump, right? What's the use of telling a love story if at the end I don't feel like better about the world and that, oh, I really can find true love, you know? What's the purpose of reading or hearing about a freaking self-help book, let's say, that at the end says, yeah, you suck and you're never going to make anything of your life. You're going to be stuck in a dead-end job for the rest of your life, writing for people who you consider man-children. I mean, like, what who wants to read something like that, right? You've purchased something with your money, your disposable income. You've purchased a thing, you're hoping to get some kind of entertainment from it, and at the end, it just radically fails on multiple levels. Which levels? Well, that's going to lead us into other sins also. This comic book, and I'm going to get to the individual parts of, you know what? No, let's start with the individual aspects of this issue as a whole. Because the art is extremely uninspired. The credits have already shown. I've already put up the whatever the preview pictures are. Images of Kane Marco in his t-shirt actually look really good in this. Images of Kane Marco in his Juggernaut suit look terrible. It looks like a blurred turd. I literally just made that up. I don't rehearse these before I do them. I mean, this is just, train of thought, I'm saying, stream of consciousness, and knowing what I know about comic books from talking with a lot of the greats, some still with us, some not with us anymore, and some current, you know? Images like Professor X and some of the monsters and other people on Krakoa, whatever, just some of the images in here, they're very blasé, very whatever. Then you get images like Black Tom Cassidy here, who really just looks like a blotched vampire, right? It's just, here's a smudge, here's a couple smudges. We're gonna make him look like Count Chocula, you know what I'm saying? And just bam, there you go. Like it really, really uninspired. Now, why is that so important? And look over here, like here's Juggernaut, just like we used to see lines coming out of the armor and the eyes and things like that. We used to see like this would show movement. This would show something, but it doesn't show anything. It's just, here's an image of me going like this. I might as well be in place posing for a picture. That is not, look at the Jim Shooter. People, look at Mike DiCarlo. What would Mike DiCarlo say about this? Actually, I could ask him right now. You know what I'm saying? Well, I almost feel like I should get him on the phone, and I don't actually have his phone, but I feel like I should bring him up. Like, no joke, like, some of the greats, the true greats in art, history, for comic books, like, oh my God, I don't even need to compare this to a Gene Colan. This would fail in a heartbeat, right? There is nothing inspired about a single pose in here. It literally just looks like a bunch of people posing for a camera, and the person with the camera had shaky cam going. Like, what is this? I was really heartbroken by this. Now, why do I feel so heartbroken by this? Because at the end of the day, look at issue 1. look at how great issue 1 was. Look at how wonderful it was. And then think about my history as a marketer, specifically business lead, but a specialty in marketing. I don't care if I did it locally, like domestically in America or here in Canada. I don't care if I did it in the Middle East, all over the Middle East and Northern Africa. I don't care. Wherever I did it, the art had to be consistent. The images all had to be consistent. I can't sit there and propose. I can't make a pitch and have lousy art, right? No, I've got to hit him with the best art I possibly can because I need to make that sale. And here's the problem. If I want repeat business from these people, when I give them the final deliverables, it can't look like a quarter of what we saw in the presentation. It can't look like that. So when issue 1 looks amazing and issue 5 just looks like, yeah, we already got your money. You already bought the prior book, so there you go. That I'm going to take as a personal insult. Now, I don't know if that's actually what happened, and honestly, like, I don't know the background. That's why I'm not here to start yelling and saying, Garvey sucks. That's not what I'm here to do. What I am here to say is this was extremely uninspired, and I don't know if Garvey was dealing with some stuff at home. I don't know if suddenly he got an extra contract. That happens with people all the time. All the time, and I mention it all the time. Sometimes that stuff happens. And sometimes I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed in having the artist contact me ahead of time and saying, hey, just to let you know, the art isn't quite going to be up to my normal standards because boom, 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 boom. And I don't deserve that, but it is great when you hear stuff like that as a reviewer because you can tack that onto the review and say, I know that, and I've done this plenty of times. Anybody who's been with this channel for a length of time knows this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to make direct personal insults against people, but the work is what's actually at review here. This art is nothing short of uninspired and boorish. And especially when the pitch was amazing, but the final deliverables, like the final issue was like, yeah, I already got my paycheck, and you're obviously going to buy this anyways because you all know how the story ends, so I don't have to put anything into it. It reminds me of John Romita Jr., an extremely likable and in many ways lovable person by all accounts. Him, I've never had any direct personal dealings with, but I do know some of his interviews where he's talked about how sorry guys, I get paid per page. I don't get paid for how good those pages are. So I got to feed my family. So I'm not here to make, pretty pages anymore. Those are the days of the past now. Now I'm just going to, draw a bunch of pages. Well, that's great. But your uninspired artwork has got to the point where nowadays it's really only fools for the most part who are hiring you at this point because you'd be very talented as an investigator to find someone who will sit here and say, John Romita Jr.'s current art is spectacular. Good luck finding that one crazy person. And I don't mean to actually, that's going to sound like ableism or like I'm making an insult against somebody. Just good luck finding that individual who actually does think that art is incredible, because it's not. It's not. You can look at his old art, and this is not even a comparison to his father. But by all means, every single person who's ever had dealings that I've ever met or seen an interview by or read an interview by who knows John Romita Jr. says he's one of the nicest people on the face of the planet. So I don't hate the man. I don't want ill things to happen to him. I don't have any ill will towards the person, but I will say I have zero interest in ever buying anything that has his name attached to it because I know that he's not interested in making it good. So there's that. Likewise, when Ron Garney does something like this, I have to sit here and wonder, what is the purpose of ever getting anything that has his name attached to it, especially if it's a limited series? Because at some point, I feel right now from what, my presumptions, not an assumption. Everybody likes to talk about make an ass out of you and me. Go make an ass out of yourself and put your finger up wherever you want to put it. Just don't touch me with it. A presumption is you take the facts as given and then you try and judge what's going to happen in the future, right? Hey, I just heard a gunshot down that alley. Now I could make, it's an assumption if you didn't hear a gunshot and you start walking down that alley. It's a presumption if you hear that gunshot and you say, I think it might be dangerous if I go down there. Right? So, yeah, I'm making the presumption that any limited series by Garney is going to be, however good it is in the beginning, that at the end, the artwork is going to make me go, ew. Because that's all that I really got from this. I got very uninspired art that just didn't make me feel good at all as I'm sitting here reading some of this stuff. It didn't look good. Some of this is just to me, it just looks like a hot mess, And there's some moments here that really could have been extremely impactful if, like just lines on a face doesn't mean that you actually cared about what happened here. Now, the story in and of itself wasn't great either. So, I don't know, maybe that's why the art wasn't so great as it stands. But I look at so much, and I don't want to go any further because it is going to be spoilers. But now let's move on to the story. Final issue of a book, and you just introduced a whole new world, a whole new organization, all new characters. Okay, listen. I'm struggling to not reach in and get my red marker that as a university professor, I would be appalled if one of my students were to ever submit a work where the conclusion paragraph introduces new you should have learned that stuff in grade school. Now again, this is going to sound like I'm making direct insults. I'm not. I'm talking about the work. I'm not talking about the person. Nobody here sucks. But the work here really not living up to the par, really not living up to the expectations I had. When I read some of Fabian's work in the X-Men, right? I never liked his Deadpool. I'm so glad that we got the new versions of Deadpool that we've gotten, because that's actually somebody who cares about the character and doesn't just think it's some ripoff of Slade Wilson someplace. I'm saying? Like, this is somebody who actually sees the potential of a new character here. And look at how wonderful Deadpool is. He's one of the greatest characters, and that's a consensus. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the biggest money-making characters that there is, breaking records, right? So it shows somebody who you come into something with a negative attitude, okay, you're just going to breed negativity. But I didn't see Fabian come into his X-Men work like that, or multiple other stories that he's done like that. But this final issue, breaking all the rules, all the standard conventions of writing, introducing a whole new, like, this is how you start a new story arc. This is how you end a story arc, kind of, but in fewer pages with less information coming at us. If this is just the end of an arc and we're going into another story. Now, there is the suggestion that a new team is going to be formed with Juggernaut on it, which makes me say, oh, so this story is supposed to continue, okay, but it's not going to be a Juggernaut book, right? It's going to be like they'll call it, I don't know, the Juggernauts or the Jugger Tits for all I care. I don't know, whatever they're going to call it. It could be Juggernaut Volume 2. I honestly, I don't know. But it's not going to be a continuation of this book. It will not be a part 6 of this book. So, with all the introductions on there, but the story getting extremely convoluted, also with the art just being really blasé, please tell me, where is the desire that any of us are supposed to have? What part of this comic book was supposed to be the part that makes us say, oh, wow, it's going to continue someplace? We got to rally and make sure that Marvel makes sure this continues. Like, no, there is not a single part in here that does that. In fact, there are good parts in here. Case in point, I'm going to tell you that we do find out that D-Cell is a mutant in this book, which is, okay, duh, but finally, okay, let's go. But I'm not going to tell you how she finally acknowledges that and admits that she's a mutant. And I'm not going to tell you why she would, because that was a really good part of the story. Granted, the delivery was not good. I mean, like, this was something that should have made us cry. This is something that at the very least should have it should have been like a soul check. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you actually have a soul thriving in that heart beating of yours? Like, are you actually a human or some hollow automaton, some tin man? You know, if I only had a heart. Yeah. This is it's something that they just dropped on us. And one of the reasons for that is, I'm going to get to in a second, because Juggernaut, when he meets these new people and we find something where it's like, okay, I don't particularly agree with the weakness that Juggernaut has in here, but again, it's a new costumes, new costume, who dis? Quoting Carla Pacheco on that. Pacheco, excuse me, just butchered her name. See that? But she had the sense to actually tell me how to pronounce her name. And I correct myself because I don't want to disrespect anybody personally. I'm saying sometimes that happens. Anyway, so Juggernaut has like all these problems, and the way that it's supposed to be explained is because his new suit and all this stuff going on, and it's like, okay, well, that sounds great. That honestly, that sounds great. I'm down for this. But then this new character in here, who's apparently supposed to be a big bad, but kind of, who still obeys the conventions of, I guess it would be like the 51 Hague Convention aspect here, but they're adding the Krakoan aspect to it. So based off of 51, oh my God, it's so weird. Anyway, when this guy can look and just automatically see that, oh, these are, what was the term used? Stabilized crimson bands of Sidorak? Is that what I'm seeing here? Look, brah. Look, brah. I don't know, man. When I see Batman, I don't see any of his enemies, even the smarter ones like Hush. I don't see any of his enemies saying, "Oh, clearly you've got infrared abilities inside of the that cowl of yours, and you can see this and that and the other thing, and bring up heads-up displays and visors and GPS, and there's somebody talking in your ear, even though I didn't hear you talking to anyone." Like, all these things, I mean, there's the suspension of disbelief there. Here, this person just looks at the costume as the person fell, not touching or investigating anything, and just says, "Oh, is that what I see here? Boom, 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 boom." At the very least, this should make me say, who is this person? Because holy crap. But no, it's just a security guard. It's a glorified, penny-pinching security guard who's like trying to make his mortgage every week, apparently, from everything that I'm seeing here. This doesn't strike me as some character who's actually going to be like a General Fordian or a Thunderbolt Ross. Because how great would it be if that's the kind of character that we got for Juggernaut? Holy crap. An actual arch enemy for Juggernaut. How sick would that be? But that's not what we got. We just got a guy who can somehow see through things, and there's no explanation, not even a hint as to how he can do these things. Oh, he's been, capturing people and taking people and using their powers, blah, blah, blah. So he's gotten so good at it that he can see something that is completely unique and that for most of us doesn't even make a whole lot of sense. Okay. And even that, all of these things, all of the cool moments in this comic book, and there were plenty. The moment with Krakoa, when he actually sees Black Tom Cassidy again, and he starts talking to him, and it's like, holy crap, like this should be really sad. And there were moments in here where some of my emotions did start to roil up a little bit. I'm like, dude, this is heartbreaking, but it's barely ever addressed. Kane just accepts his lot in life without actually acknowledging that he's accepting his lot in life. Oh yeah, these are still my friends, and I still worship them, and I love them, and I really wish I could be on their island, but, they're absolute racist pigs because due to a birth defect, essentially, due to the fact that I was born this way and they were born that way, that means that we can't be friends anymore. I'm sorry, dude, that's the way it ought to be. Go back and listen to Led Zeppelin back in the day. Go back and listen to all this great music back in the day where it's like, dude, stop. At some point you recognize these people are not your friends because they're kind of scum. They're racist pigs, right? And that's the way that they were presented here. There wasn't even like an olive branch Or it's like, listen, that's just the way it's got to be for now. Who knows what the future could hold? One little line like that, one little line, and all of a sudden, now it's impactful. Now it makes sense why Kane is this puppy dog who's still thinking, I could be with my friends who I've crushed so many times. It would make sense. It would bleed some sort of emotion for Kane where, like, there's some kind of optimism, some kind of hope. That's also another reason why I would want this series to continue. But no, instead it's just Kane going, okay, you guys are awesome. And it's really frustrating to see stuff like that. Every single mistake possible. Let's give you another mistake in this comic book, because I just mentioned 3 really good parts of this comic book story-wise, right? Nothing particularly inspiring about the art. Just that's the way that it is. This, like, Gardy took a holiday in this one. It was just like, paycheck, wow, I get paid per page. Or at least that's what it appears to me. And if he went through some kind of a struggle or something really that sucks, I'm sorry. I hope things got better for you. But I did wind up paying for really crappy art in this issue. I'm saying. That's all. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. All right? So we've got 3 good parts of the story. And it's basically Batman vs. Superman. Why do I say that? Because Batman vs. Superman has some really great cinematic parts, but absolutely zero thread connecting these in any kind of a meaningful way. There were 3 really great moments, and a couple of, smaller moments that were kind of cool, that were just rushed, Come on, kid, we're getting out of here. Okay, yeah, so apparently we're way up here. Listen, I'll survive this fall. Do you think you will? I'm not so sure. Okay, well, we're not going to take that chance. Okay, well, let's go. I'm saying? I'm just looking at this, I'm saying. And then he goes right back in. And, okay, well, let's face the music. And instead, we're going to claim refuge. We're going to claim asylum. I can understand that Kane Marco would be dumb enough to call it asylum when it's not actually asylum. You can't claim asylum when you're not in the country that you want to claim asylum. Even to the UN, that's not the way that the UN High Commission Office, whatever the hell it is, High Commission Officer, that's not actually the way that it's done. Okay, whatever. I'm supposed to research someone's name, the hardest name on the face of the planet. This guy can't even research how asylum actually works. I understand, but I'm the jerk off. I'm the jerk off here, right? Okay, cool. I sit here and I read this, and I'm just like, dude, this could have been so much better if just these 3 major parts, these emotional parts of the story, could have been connected better than just, stuff happens. Okay, now we're here. Really cool part. Okay, stuff happens. Now we're here. Bruh. You know how you know the difference between a solid, liquid, and gas? Because the molecules themselves don't change. They don't. But we have 3 states of matter. There are multiple states of matter. But those 3 main and easy to understand states of matter, we're not going to get into plasma and all that stuff. These states of matter are defined by the molecular bonds. No molecular bonds connecting multiple molecules together, you get a gas. You get not a superfluid, that would be an entirely different state of matter. You get a regular fluid, a fluidic bond connecting these molecules, you get liquid. It's in the name, fluid. And if you get them, they're like rock hard, hey, then you got an erection. I mean, you've got you got solid. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is how you connect a story. Now, again, I'm not so pretentious as to tell a person how to do their job. I'm not. That's just not who I am. So when I start to get these feelings like, I think that I could have done a better job, or somebody could have done a better job on this, especially when you're trying to basically suggesting, hey, I want you to buy whatever else is going to come out afterwards. Maybe Fabian isn't going to be doing the next story that comes out. And they were like, yeah, do these 5 issues to advertise this other book that's coming out that we've got somebody else about to write. Okay, maybe then I guess I could see it, like, especially if you don't like that person. But if you're pitching to do this next book, or if your friend or someone who you respect is going to be doing the next book, I would try to make it better. Again, the first issue was out of this world crazy good. So good that here's this guy who, again, made a comment that was so rude to me on the face of it, whether he acknowledges it or not, that I actually thought about quitting doing reviews because I was very new in doing reviews. And it was literally only Gail Simone that kept me doing reviews because she saw what happened, talked to me about what happened, said that's not how we all are. You know, some of us have better couth than that. And suggested to me, you're actually doing a good job. Even if I don't agree with you all the time, I don't have to agree. You know what I'm saying? Very similar to the thing where I say where, you know, every cook would love to be able to tell their critics how to critique their food. You know what I'm saying? Everybody would love to tell somebody else how to do their job, especially when they're directly affected with it. Writers don't get to tell me how to do a review. That's simply not what happens. That being said, I've got plenty of writers and artists who are very happy with my reviews, and a lot of them say your reviews actually help me, especially artists. Your reviews actually help me to see what your people at the very least are looking for, and you bring up very good points. You bring up people from the past. You bring up things that have actually been successful and you know, good storylines and whatnot. So much like Ron Mars would say, yeah, you're one of the few people who are actually doing real reviews, as opposed to people who are just saying, this is trash, I hate it, or this was good because it made me feel good. No, I'm actually doing comic book reviews. It's horrible when you feel as though you have to justify what you do, but yeah, triggered. Just like soldiers with PTSD. Blah. Sometimes we get triggered with things. A loud noise will trigger me. At the end of the day, I don't want to sit here and tell Fabian how to do his job. And I'm sure I'm going to get a freaking earful that I'll probably read for a couple moments and say, yeah, sure, whatever, bud. Because they're usually not very nice. And feel free to look at the previous ones. And if they somehow get deleted, don't worry. I saved them because every good writer saves their rejection letters to kind of laugh about them later. I'm sure that Fabian has done the same thing. I take Fabian's comments as rejection letters. They're only fuel for me at this point because I've been doing this for about 4 years now. I have a better feel of what I'm doing, and I'm not doing this for money anyway. I have a really good job where I probably get paid a lot more than people who are working in comics do. Yeah, I literally just do this because of my love for the medium. I love comic books, and it does break my heart just a little when I see a comic book that it started off so goddamn good, and then it devolves into this, and it really feels, even though I'm sure, like, again, I'm sure that nobody came into this comic book just saying, yeah, whatever. But it's hard to suggest that somebody did anything other than that when almost everybody involved, mind you, the colors on here, Matt Mila. Matt Mila is, I'm not saying anybody else isn't a professional, but Matt Mila always strikes me as a solid professional on this. Mila's colors on this, if anything were to save this comic book, it would be the colors. But at the same time, like I've joked before, they're just colors. So like, you say like, would it be great if, well, not great, but what if Al Ewing was writing a horrible book and Joe Bennett was drawing a horrible book? Could we say that Paul Mounts saved the Immortal Hulk book? No, we would still say it sucks, but hey, Paul, good job, if somebody even bothered to recognize that Paul was doing a good job in that regard. So let's simply look at it this way. Matt Mila did a great job on this. He is a steadfast professional. I feel, from my observations, that every single thing that this guy does, he looks at it as though this could be my last comic book that I ever do. This could wind up being the thing that the John Byrne rule, right? That every comic book is somebody's first comic book. And yes, there will be somebody who finds issue number 5 of Juggernaut, this book, in their dollar bin someplace, and they'll just say, I wonder how this is going to be. They don't know that this is the final. It doesn't say anywhere on the cover here that it's issue 5 of 5, so nobody's stupid for buying this, in the dollar bin. So you find it and say, if this is any good, maybe I'll get the rest of the series. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll get issue 6. There's no issue 6? I didn't know that, but I already bought the book. Oh, well. This could very well be somebody's first comic book. This could be something that that some comic skater says, yeah, it's trash, and tosses it, right? And then somebody comes along with good intentions and just looks and says, what's this? Oh, wow, the people in this are really bad. Mila did good. But, like, for all intents and purposes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and the thing is that the pencils in this, the art in this, you know, outside of the colors, I can't even I can't even question VC's Josepino in this because, you know, one of the things about being a letterer is you have to know where to put bubbles so that it doesn't affect the story. It was pretty easy to figure out everything here as far as I'm concerned because it's not just the idea that lots of room was left. No, it's more of the idea that there's nothing important going on in any of these, you know, pictures for the most part. What? Oh, here's an explosion. Make sure you don't put, you know, your art over the explode or your word bubbles over the explosions. Sure. But I mean, like it's covering part of her head when there's all this stuff over here. And like who cares because there's nothing important going on in anything here. Mind you, look at these colors. Holy crap, they're freaking amazing. The best part here, the only thing that makes this jump off the page is the colors. Nothing else. There's nothing else here. I'm actually getting really close to the spoilers at the end of the book. So, yeah, for all intents and purposes, I just feel like this issue was just somebody saying, yeah, I reeled you in and, you know, I got you hook, line, and sinker. Look at all the people who looked at issue 1 and look at the number of people who have looked at all the other issues from that point on. The sales of the book, the people watching reviews, not just my reviews, all of the reviews out there. Yeah. And unfortunately, the only people who are going to benefit from this are channels like Comic Storian, who is going to take the whole entire story. Somebody's going to read the story for him and going to put together a script. And then he's just going to, you know, and they're going to grab a whole bunch of images off of the internet that are, for the most part, illegal images because they got them off of illegal sites, you know, saying, as opposed to me, who's only taking the images that Marvel themselves released and said, these are your preview images, right? and they're going to benefit because people are going to say, I wonder how that Juggernaut story was. And they're going to hear it and they'll be like, oh, okay. Oh, pretty interesting. And yeah, that's it. These are the only people who are actually going to benefit from a comic book like this for the most part. Because nothing here is going to, I assume C.B. Cebulski isn't going to look at this and say, wow, the sales on this were so great. And it was so inspiring that, yeah, of course, we got to put in another story with quicksand in it and stuff like that. I'm really, like I said, heartbroken seems to keep on coming to mind. You know what I'm saying? Call me a man-child if you want. Call me whatever you want. I get impassioned about the things that I am impassioned about. It's just, it is what it is. So have a lot of the greats out there, and a lot of them wind up getting really depressed over the state of comics in general today, and the fact that there are very few people who actually try to do something. And you think about all the positive things that I said in the first review, and you think about what I'm saying now. This isn't some revenge tactic. This isn't some whatever. I could honestly care less. This is literally just me reviewing the comic book and saying that I don't feel that almost anybody actually cared about putting together this comic book. I genuinely just don't. This didn't feel like an inspired work. This didn't feel like a work of passion. This just felt like it, much like Fabian said before, you know, nowadays we're really just writing for a bunch of man children. I'm sure that the comment will return that that's not how I meant it to be said, but when you're writing something or saying something, the inflection in your voice or the tone that you take, what you choose to italicize or put in quotation marks, at the end of the day, we can only look at what's presented to us and take that. So like here's a writer who's going to say something wasn't intended that way, but isn't the onus of responsibility upon you to actually get that across? So yeah, I don't take dude, in the military, in the army, I've heard far worse insults from people who I respect far greater than that. I could honestly care less. You want to call me a man child? Sure. I'm sure I've got plenty of pejoratives for you also if we ever meet. You know what I'm saying? And you want to say something like that to my face. Sure, let's have the conversation. I just, you know, come to find out not too long ago, we're both Jersey boys. I'm sure we could both go. You know what I'm saying? That said, yeah, I really feel like when you have a book that just came out so strong in the beginning, and then you end with this, it just feels like a gotcha. And that's heartbreaking. There's the compound word again. Guys, I'm out. I'm out. I'll talk to you guys later. Like the video or don't. and watch an ad. Talk to you later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.